This is High Chancellor Orvith, speaking for the Zaruk Empire. Earth, your time as an independent world has ended. Submit or be erased. The message reverberated across every channel, from satellites to smartphones. For a moment, humanity collectively paused, suspended between disbelief and outrage. This wasn't some sci-fi movie or a hoax. It was real. Alien warships loomed in orbit, their sleek forms glowing with ominous energy. The Zaruk Empire had arrived, confident, condescending, and prepared to deliver what they called an act of mercy. And then, without waiting for a reply, they fired. Beams of searing light lanced down from the heavens, striking cities and military bases with pinpoint precision. The attacks weren't chaotic. They were surgical, coordinated, and devastating. Massive explosions rippled across the globe, tearing through steel and concrete as if it were paper. The Zaruk ships, enormous constructs of sleek alien design, hovered above the chaos, their crews watching impassively. To them, this was just another conquest, one more primitive species brought to heel. But as the fires burned and the dust settled, something unexpected happened. Earth was still there. Cities had been damaged, but many were untouched. Key facilities remained functional. The planet's atmosphere crackled with the faint remnants of energy shields, rudimentary by galactic standards, yet inexplicably effective. On board the Zaruk flagship, the High Chancellor stared at the holodisplays in confusion. Why are their defenses holding? Their technological index is decades behind our lowest vassal species. An aide hesitated. It appears their planetary shields are decentralized. They're using a network of independent generators. Inefficient, but adaptable. Adaptable, the High Chancellor scoffed. Adorable. On Earth, the reaction was very different. Amid the chaos, humanity's defiance burned hotter than ever. In an underground command bunker, General Helena Carter leaned over a tactical display, her expression one of grim determination. "They're trying to overwhelm us with brute force," she said, her voice steady despite the pounding tremors above. "Let them try. We've been preparing for something like this for decades." Across the room, Dr. Raj Malhotra, a physicist with unruly hair and an even more unruly attitude, smirked. "Guess they didn't read the memo. Earth doesn't fold under pressure. We specialize in breaking expectations and bones." Even as humanity scrambled to assess the damage, its response was already taking shape. Emergency networks came alive with orders, strategies, and innovations born out of desperation. Hackers infiltrated the alien communication grid, finding cracks in their security protocols. Engineers began repurposing satellite systems to amplify and disrupt alien targeting systems. Every mind, every resource, every ounce of Earth's ingenuity was being poured into the fight. Hours later, the Zaruk launched a second wave, confident this one would crush any lingering resistance. Their beams hit harder, aiming for the shield generators they had detected. The energy signatures spiked, and then vanished. When the beams struck their targets, they found nothing but decoys. Earth had moved its critical infrastructure underground, and the decoys had been rigged to overload, sending surges of energy back toward the attackers. Several Zaruk ships flickered as their shields struggled to absorb the blowback. For the first time, the High Chancellor's smug confidence cracked. "Explain this," he roared at his subordinates. "Why are they still resisting?" "We underestimated their ingenuity," the aide admitted. "They're improvising faster than anticipated." Improvising wasn't the right word. It was evolution in action. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was learning, adapting, and striking back. The next move came in the form of a single transmission, broadcast directly to the Zaruk flagship. The voice was calm, laced with sarcasm. "You call that a bombing? Adorable. Watch this." Moments later, the Zaruk's primary targeting systems began to fail, one by one. Their displays flickered, replaced by human faces, smirking, laughing, mocking. Music blasted across their communications, a cacophony of Earth's most obnoxious sounds. And then came the counterattack, a salvo of modified missiles launched from Earth's surface, crude by galactic standards, but enhanced with stolen Zaruk technology. They detonated in brilliant bursts, disrupting the fleet's formation and forcing them into retreat. Humanity wasn't just surviving. It was thriving under fire. In the flagship's command room, the High Chancellor stared at the unfolding chaos, his voice a low growl. "What have we unleashed?" Down on Earth, in the same bunker, General Carter turned to her team. "Let's show them what humans can really do." The United Nations emergency session crackled with the sound of overlapping voices. World leaders sat around a massive circular table, eyes glued to the live feeds showing alien ships swarming Earth's deserts. The Sahara, the Mojave, and the Outback, key regions, had become war zones overnight. What had seemed like a resource grab now looked like a losing battle for Earth. General Ryan Stokes stood at the center of the room, his uniform crisp, his expression unyielding. The alien fleet has focused exclusively on desert regions, ignoring our cities and infrastructure. This isn't an invasion in the traditional sense. They're harvesting. Footage flickered on the central monitor, alien machines burrowing deep into the sand, emitting strange energy pulses that disrupted the surrounding terrain. Then came the storms. Sand twisting into violent, towering vortexes, swallowing Sci-Fi ships with precision that defied natural explanation. This isn't normal weather, Stokes continued. Our drones have recorded patterns that suggest the storms are targeting them. It's as if the desert itself is pushing back. Dr. Elena Carter, sitting on the sidelines, couldn't hold back any longer. She stood, gripping a stack of documents. That's because it is, she said, her voice clear and firm. Heads turned. A few murmurs rippled through the room. Elena took a deep breath. I spent my career studying the Sahara. The storm patterns we're seeing have no precedent in recorded history. And it's not just storms. Look at the symbols forming in the sand. She held up images of intricate geometric patterns. These match ancient markings found in desert caves. They aren't just random. They're a language. Are you suggesting the desert is alive, Dr. Carter? Asked the skeptical diplomat. I'm suggesting there's an intelligence at work, Elena said, her voice rising with urgency. These patterns have appeared before, thousands of years ago. According to archaeological records, the Sci-Fi's technology has triggered something ancient, something we don't understand. If we don't figure out how to communicate with it, we might all be in danger. Above the Sahara, the Sci-Fi fleet recalibrated. Captain Vale Kryth watched the tactical displays, his patience wearing thin. Why do these storms only target us? He muttered, pacing the bridge. Preliminary analysis suggests a localized energy field beneath the surface, a technician reported. The storms are amplifying it. Kryth scowled. This is a primitive world. Its inhabitants barely understand basic physics. Whatever force this is, it isn't theirs. He turned to his war council. Deploy planetary disruptors. If the ground itself is the enemy, we'll tear it apart. Elena's heart sank as she watched a new feed from the Sahara. Sci-Fi warships began deploying massive, cylindrical devices that hummed ominously as they activated. The sand trembled violently, rippling outward like a disturbed pond. They're trying to destroy the source, Elena said, panic creeping into her voice. General Stokes crossed his arms, his tone grim. If they destabilize the region, it'll trigger catastrophic effects. Entire ecosystems could collapse, climate shifts, dust storms that last for decades. They'll kill the desert, and they'll kill us along with it. Elena grabbed her notebook, flipping through pages of symbols. She stopped at a drawing that mirrored what she had seen forming in the sand. It's a test, she murmured. Stokes raised an eyebrow. A test? The patterns, the symbols, it's trying to communicate. It's not just defending itself. It's testing whether we're a threat, like the Sci-Fi, or allies. Far below, the sand began to pulse, glowing faintly with a golden light. The disruptors faltered, their vibrations distorted. Alien machines collapsed into sinkholes that seemed to form beneath them on command. The storm's fury escalated, tearing through the alien fleet with unprecedented precision. Elena stood transfixed, the room around her dissolving into background noise. It's alive, she whispered, her earlier suspicions confirmed. The desert wasn't just pushing back. It was deciding the fate of the planet. The Zaruk Empire's fleet hovered in disarray above Earth. What had begun as a routine conquest had spiraled into a baffling, humiliating stalemate. Each attempt to overpower humanity was met with ingenuity and defiance. The humans weren't merely surviving, they were thriving under pressure, turning scraps of data and alien tech into weapons the Empire didn't anticipate. High Chancellor Orvith paced the command deck of his flagship, his frustration boiling over. How is it possible that these primitives are outmaneuvering us? Where are the countermeasures? An officer stood stiffly at attention, clearly dreading the Chancellor's fury. We've identified the source of their technological leaps, sir. They've reverse-engineered fragments of our equipment. Their scientists are integrating it into their systems faster than we believed possible. Orvith stopped mid-stride, his expression dark. And our response? We've launched counter-suppressions on their communication grids, but they're evading us. They're using decentralized networks and redundant pathways. Every time we shut one down, two more take its place. Then we take out their capacity to resist entirely. Orva growled. Prepare the kinetic annihilation rods. If their shields falter for even a second. Chancellor. Another officer interrupted, his voice tight with urgency. Our fleet's energy stabilizers are under attack. The humans have compromised our power distribution nodes. Orva turned sharply, his golden eyes narrowing. Explain. Energy surges are being reported across the fleet. They're targeting our central nodes through invasive code we've been unable to scrub. Several cruisers are reporting critical failures in their shielding systems. Orva's claws flexed, scraping against the smooth console. Disable those systems immediately. Whatever it takes. The officer hesitated. With respect. Sir, we've tried. Their code adapts too quickly. Back on Earth, in the underground command center, General Helena Carter stood over a tactical display, her sharp eyes scanning the latest reports. The Zuruk fleet's formation was crumbling as their energy grids flickered. Satellites captured images of failing shields and exposed hulls, ripe for targeting. Carter turned to Dr. Raj Malhotra, who was leaning back in his chair, his feet propped on the edge of a console as he tapped furiously on a tablet. How long can we keep their systems compromised? She asked. Raj smirked, his voice tinged with pride. Long enough. Their tech's fancy, but it wasn't built to handle someone like me poking around in it. They're over-engineered and under-defended. Perfect combo. Good, Carter said, her tone hard. Keep them off balance. We need to hit them where it hurts. Already ahead of you, Raj said. He leaned forward, typing a final command. I just sent a little surprise their way. A cascade overload. Their energy distribution nodes should start frying themselves. Oh, now. Above Earth, chaos erupted. One by one, Zuruk cruisers reported catastrophic system failures. Shields flickered and died, engines stuttered, and the fleet's once-perfect formation dissolved into a scattered mess. For the first time in centuries, an Imperial fleet looked vulnerable. High Chancellor, an officer shouted, his voice strained. The humans are launching missiles, high velocity, low signature. Our defenses can't track them all. Then destroy the ones you can. Orva snapped. On Earth, Carter watched as the missiles streaked upward, each one loaded with re-engineered Zuruk tech. Their warheads didn't just explode. They unleashed targeted EMP pulses, disrupting alien systems further. Several ships, already crippled by the energy surges, drifted helplessly as the missiles found their marks. One Zuruk destroyer erupted in a cascade of fire, its debris scattering across the atmosphere. Another began to tilt, its propulsion systems failing, until it careened into a nearby cruiser. The collision triggered a violent explosion that sent shockwaves rippling through the fleet. Beautiful, Carter muttered under her breath, a rare smile breaking through her otherwise steely demeanor. Raj, tell me we've got more surprises like that. Working on it, Raj said, already pulling up schematics for the next wave of counterattacks. I've got a few ideas that'll really ruin their day. On board the Zuruk flagship, Orva stared at the destruction, his composure unraveling. This is unacceptable, he roared. Mobilize all reinforcements. Deploy the planetary eraser. We end this now, sir, an officer said cautiously. Using the eraser on a populated world. I don't care. Orva snapped. This planet must burn. But as the order was relayed, the humans made their next move. A rogue signal intercepted the command, rerouting it back toward the Zuruk fleet. Orva's command ship trembled as alarms blared. What's happening? He demanded. A message appeared on every console, written in plain human script, asterisk we told you to watch. Now you're going to learn asterisk. And then the humans struck again. The Zuruk fleet's devastation above Earth was no longer a matter of speculation or rumor. It was undeniable fact. Warships that had once inspired terror across the galaxy now floated as twisted wreckage or burned in the atmosphere, their fires visible from the surface like falling stars. Earth's skies were a graveyard for the invincible. In the underground command center, General Helena Carter stood at the edge of the tactical display, her sharp gaze fixed on the live feed of the battlefield. Around her, the room buzzed with the controlled chaos of engineers, strategists, and analysts, all working to outpace the Zuruk's next move. They're bringing in reinforcements, Carter said, pointing to the faint flashes appearing on the satellite feed as new ships exited hyperspace. Bigger ships. Heavier firepower. Ah, the classic throw more at the problem strategy, Dr. Raj Malhotra quipped as he leaned over a console. That always works. For us, I mean. Carter ignored the sarcasm. Raj, how much time do we have before their planetary eraser comes back online? Raj tapped a few keys, pulling up the Zaruk's energy signatures. Best guess. 3 hours. Assuming they don't figure out we hijacked the firing sequence before they get it stabilized. And if they do, then we're gonna be real popular with the local crater industry. Carter turned to her second-in-command. Activate the contingency. Prepare for full-scale orbital strikes. The room quieted as the weight of her words settled. The contingency plan wasn't just a defensive measure. It was an all-out offensive, one that pushed Earth's capabilities to their breaking point. But Carter didn't flinch. Humanity had been forced into this fight, and they would finish it on their terms. Above Earth, the Zaruk flagship teetered on the edge of chaos. High Chancellor Orvith's once imposing command deck now felt suffocating, the air thick with tension. His officers worked feverishly at their stations, desperately trying to restore order. Status on the planetary eraser, Orvith demanded, his voice sharp. Stabilizing, High Chancellor, an officer replied. But their interference is persistent. It's like their code is alive. Then kill it, Orvith snarled. Purge every system if you have to. I want that weapon operational. Before the officer could respond, a warning siren blared. The holographic display shifted, showing a barrage of new threats. Missiles. Dozens of them. Rising from Earth's surface, each one carrying an explosive payload enhanced by Zaruk's own stolen technology. Defensive measures online, an officer shouted. Target all incoming projectiles. But as the fleet scrambled to intercept the missiles, something unexpected happened. The projectiles split into smaller units mid-flight, each one scattering in unpredictable directions. The Zaruk defenses, designed to handle precision strikes, faltered under the onslaught of chaos. Several missiles found their targets, detonating with surgical precision. On the flagship, Orvith gripped the edge of his command console as another explosion rocked the vessel. What are these creatures? He hissed. How can they? High Chancellor, a voice interrupted, hesitant but firm. Orvith turned to see Admiral Vrel, one of the fleet's senior officers. Unlike the others, Vrel's expression was calm, almost resigned. Speak, Orvith commanded. They're not creatures, Vrel said. They're survivors. And they've turned every strength we thought we had into a weakness. We underestimated them. Orvith's eyes narrowed. Are you suggesting we retreat? I'm suggesting we rethink what victory looks like, Vrel replied evenly. If we don't adapt, we'll lose more than this battle. We'll lose the Empire. The Chancellor's rage flared, but before he could respond, another transmission interrupted. Earth's voice, calm, mocking, and undeniably human, flooded the Zaruk's comm channels. Still trying to figure us out. Here's a hint. We're faster than you think, and we're not even close to done. Orvith's claws tightened, his fury barely contained. Deploy all remaining forces. Prepare the eraser for manual detonation if necessary. Back on Earth, Carter watched the Zaruk fleet's disarray with grim satisfaction. They're desperate, she said, her voice cutting through the room. Desperate means sloppy. We exploit every weakness, hit every gap. Raj looked up from his station. And the eraser? We neutralize it, Carter replied. Or we turn it against them. Raj's grin was wolfish. Oh, I like the sound of that. As the next wave of Zaruk reinforcements descended, Earth's defenses surged forward, a tide of ingenuity and defiance. Humanity wasn't just holding the line, they were pushing it. And somewhere in the chaos, the seeds of victory were already taking root. The Zaruk fleet's reinforcements arrived in waves, their massive warships blocking out stars as they emerged from hyperspace. Each vessel bristled with weaponry, their hulls glowing with the energy of untested experimental systems. High Chancellor Orvith stood rigid on the command deck of his flagship, his fury simmering just beneath the surface. Humanity had humiliated them, turned their advanced technology into a liability, and now threatened the Empire's very image of invincibility. This ends now, Orvith growled, his voice sharp and venomous. Activate all suppression systems, ground their satellites, jam their communications, and fire the eraser the moment it's operational. An officer hesitated. High Chancellor, their countermeasures are still disrupting our systems. The energy grid remains unstable. Orvith turned on him, his golden eyes blazing. Then stabilize it. I don't care how. Earth will burn before this day ends. On Earth, General Helena Carter stood in the dim light of the underground command center, her face illuminated by the shifting glow of tactical screens. The Zaruk fleet's reinforcements had shifted the balance of power back toward the invaders, and everyone in the room felt the weight of it. "We're running out of time," Carter said, her voice low but firm. "If the eraser fires, we're finished." Dr. Raj Malhotra, seated at a nearby console, gave her a grim look. "They've doubled down on protecting it. If we're going to stop them, it's got to be big. And fast. Bigger than what we've already done." Carter asked, raising an eyebrow. "What exactly are you suggesting?" Raj hesitated, his fingers drumming on the console. "We turn their own weapon against them. The eraser's firing mechanism relies on centralized energy nodes. If we overload those, we can force it to misfire." Carter considered this for a moment. "Misfire how?" "Big explosion," Raj replied, his tone darkly humorous. "Big enough to take out a significant chunk of their fleet." Carter's gaze hardened. "Do it. But I want a contingency in place. If this fails, we're launching everything we've got." Above Earth, the Zaruk fleet repositioned, their movements tighter and more coordinated. The remaining ships formed a protective wall around the eraser, its energy readings spiking as it approached readiness. Orva stood at the center of it all, watching the final preparations with a mix of anticipation and wrath. "They will kneel," he muttered, "and the galaxy will remember what happens when you defy the Empire." But even as his words left his mouth, a warning klaxon blared. One of the tactical officers turned, his face pale. "High Chancellor, the humans have launched another offensive. Multiple signatures. They're targeting." "I know what they're targeting." Orvith snapped. "Intercept them." Down on Earth, the command center was a flurry of activity. Carter's team monitored the incoming reports, each missile launch and system disruption carefully calculated to overwhelm the Zaruk defenses. But this wasn't just about brute force, it was about deception. "Phase 2 initiated," Raj announced. "They're focusing on the missiles, just like we planned." "Good," Carter said. "Keep the pressure on. The real strike team is moving into position." The real strike team was a fleet of stealth drones, retrofitted with Zaruk cloaking technology scavenged from downed ships. They slipped through the chaos, undetected, and zeroed in on the eraser's vulnerable energy nodes. Each drone carried a payload of highly reactive explosives designed to overload the system. Above, the Zaruk fleet braced for what they believed was a direct missile strike. Orvith barked orders, his focus entirely on the barrage of incoming projectiles. It wasn't until the first energy node detonated that he realized the humans' true strategy. "Energy destabilization detected," an officer shouted. "The eraser is losing control. Shut it down." Orvith roared. "Nah." But it was too late. The overloaded nodes cascaded into failure, triggering a massive explosion that rippled across the Zaruk fleet. Ships near the eraser were caught in the blast, their shields collapsing under the sheer force of the detonation. One by one, vessels erupted in brilliant bursts of light, leaving the fleet in tatters. In the command center, the room erupted in cheers as the feed confirmed the eraser's destruction. Carter allowed herself a small smile before raising a hand for silence. "It's not over yet," she said. "The fleet's still active, and they'll come at us harder than ever. Prep the next wave. This isn't about survival anymore. This is about making them understand." Back aboard the Zaruk flagship, Orvith stood in stunned silence, the glow of the destruction reflected in his furious eyes. "They've taken everything from us," he muttered. "Everything." Behind him, Admiral Vrel stepped forward, his voice calm. "No, High Chancellor. They've shown us what we've underestimated, and it may already be too late to stop them." The Zaruk fleet hung in tatters above Earth, their proud warships reduced to broken hulks and smoldering debris. For the first time in the Empire's long and brutal history, they were not the conquerors, they were the conquered. And yet, even in their weakened state, they refused to retreat. High Chancellor Orvith stood on the command deck of his flagship, his expression a mix of rage and desperation. "Prepare all remaining forces for a final assault," Orvith ordered, his voice sharp and unyielding. "If we cannot dominate them, we will annihilate them." An officer hesitated, his hands trembling as he reviewed the state of the fleet. "High Chancellor, our forces are depleted. Many ships are non-operational. We risk—" "I did not ask for your opinion," Orvith roared, slamming his fist against the console. "We are the Zaruk Empire. We do not bow to primitives." But even as he spoke, Orvith knew the truth. Earth was no ordinary prey. Humanity had proven itself not just resilient but relentless, capable of turning every perceived disadvantage into a strength. The Empire's arrogance had cost them dearly, and now, they teetered on the edge of ruin. Below, in the underground command center, General Helena Carter stood amidst the hum of activity, her team working tirelessly to consolidate Earth's advantage. The tactical displays showed the Zaruk fleet in disarray, their reinforcements scattered and their flagship barely operational. "We've broken their back," Carter said, her voice firm. "Now we finish this." Dr. Raj Malhotra leaned back in his chair, a rare moment of satisfaction on his face. The big bad Empire brought to its knees by a bunch of scrappy humans with duct tape and a dream. "I love it." Carter shot him a look. "We're not done yet. They'll try something desperate. We need to be ready." As if on cue, a warning alarm blared. One of the analysts turned to Carter, his face pale. "General, the Zaruk flagship is powering up a massive energy signature. It's off the charts. Whatever it is, it's bigger than the eraser." Carter's jaw tightened. "They're planning to take us out in one final strike. They destroy themselves in the process," Raj said, his grin fading. "It's a last-ditch move. Then we don't give them the chance," Carter said. "Raj, can we disable their systems again?" Raj shook his head. "Not in time, but we might be able to force a controlled overload. If we hit their core reactor with enough precision, it'll cascade before they can fire." "Do it," Carter ordered, "and make it count." As Earth prepared its final move, Orvis stood before the central console of his flagship, watching as the weapon charged. The hum of the energy core grew louder, resonating through the ship like a heartbeat. Around him, the crew worked in grim silence, their fear palpable. "This is the price of defiance," Orvis said, more to himself than to anyone else. "They will remember this day." But as the weapon reached its critical charge, the humans struck. A barrage of high-velocity missiles, each one equipped with cloaking tech and precision guidance, pierced the flagship's remaining defenses. The missiles detonated near the reactor core, their payloads designed to destabilize its containment field. "High Chancellor," an officer shouted. "The reactor is overloading. We need to evacuate." "No," Orvis bellowed. His words were cut off as the reactor erupted in a blinding explosion, consuming the flagship in a violent burst of energy. The shockwave rippled through the fleet, obliterating nearby ships and scattering the remnants of the once mighty Zaruk armada. In the command center, cheers erupted as the flagship's destruction was confirmed. Carter allowed herself a small smile but quickly raised a hand to quiet the room. "Focus," she said. "We're not done cleaning up. Coordinate with the orbital teams. We want no loose ends." Raj leaned back with a satisfied sigh. "You know, I almost feel bad for them." Carter gave him a sharp look. "Don't. They brought this on themselves." Above, the debris of the Zaruk fleet drifted aimlessly, the last remnants of their hubris scattered across Earth's orbit. Humanity had not just survived, they had prevailed, delivering a message that would echo across the galaxy. As Carter prepared to address the world, a transmission came through, encrypted and urgent. It wasn't from the Zaruk, but another alien faction. The message was simple and chilling. "We've been watching. And now we know." Carter's expression hardened. The war was over, but the battle for humanity's place in the galaxy was only beginning.